Good morning, everyone. My name is Matthew Wilson with Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters, and welcome again to this morning's session on the Technology Assessment Program. Um, my name, again, is Matthew. I am the Senior Vice President of Policy Government Relations in the Ontario Division for Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters. Pleased to be joined today by Doug Matton with Centerline out of Windsor, by David Linton from BDO, we're from Sheetal Chetta, who is the program manager of the Technology Assessment Program, and Rakesh Naidu with the Regional Chamber of Commerce in Windsor, Essex. I'd like to also have a big thank you to our partners with the Federal Economic Development Agency of Southern Ontario, who without their support for the Technology Assessment Program, we would not be here today. So again, thank you very much for joining us today. CME has been around for almost 150 years. Our focus, our goal, our entire mission has been to help manufacturers grow throughout that entire time period. We have focused on a wide variety of activities for our members. Primarily, we focus on government regulations, policies, and support programs to help companies invest and be competitive both domestically and internationally. We are a not-for-profit membership-based organization, and we represent the 90,000 manufacturers and their 1.7 million Canadian employees. A big part of what CME does and a big focus for us is around ensuring that manufacturing can grow in Canada. Right now, manufacturing is in a very difficult situation. We talk about COVID an awful lot, and certainly COVID has had its impact. But even before COVID hit, we were seeing significant challenges with our sector. And in particular, we are seeing big challenges with investment. We were not seeing the investment levels that we thought were healthy enough to keep Canadian manufacturing globally competitive, to have them innovating, to growing, and to see the productivity levels remain high. As a result, we were slipping behind many of our international competitors. Our focus has been working with governments to try to change that. One of the things we have been focused on is changing and improving the outcome on investment in technologies. We see technology as critical to changing the state of manufacturing in the country. And again, this started before COVID. Since COVID hit, we've seen obviously significant declines of productivity even further, and even more weakening of investment decisions for companies. Right now, as we launch our technology assessment program, or we continue to launch our technology assessment program, we think we think that this will help a great deal in supporting companies making their investment decisions. We know that in talking to our members, that they are unsure of what technologies to invest in often, how those technologies will support their growth, and how it will fit into their existing operations. The technology assessment program is specifically designed to help those companies better understand how the technologies will fit in, how they can use technologies to grow, and more importantly, what is the right technology for their company at the right time. So again, today we'll have a series of conversations with people. At the end of this, we'll have an open discussion panel for you to ask your questions. But again, I want to thank you all for joining us today. I want to thank our partners at FedDev for making this possible. And just recognition that without technology, Canadian manufacturing cannot grow. We will not recover from COVID-19. And we see that the technology assessment program is being a critical component in helping manufacturers make those investment decisions that they need to make. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Doug. Doug, thank you very much again for joining us today. Look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Great. Thanks very much, Matthew. Welcome, everybody, and good morning. My name is Doug Matton. I'm the Vice President of International Operations at Centerline. I've been with Centerline since 2009, and we're welcome to go to the first slide here. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Centerline, again, our sponsors today in the Technology Assessment Program. Go to the next slide. Centerline is a privately held company, started over 60 years ago with corporate headquarters here in Windsor. We have sales back in 2018 of over $200 million. And we have 4 facilities on our Windsor campus housing 5 separate divisions. Our main business is basically resistance welding, metal forming, and mechanical assembly. We have nearly 800 employees at the Windsor facilities today, and 1,100 if we look at our global operations. And our main customers are Tier 1, Tier 2 automotive parts suppliers, as well as automotive OEMs. You can go to the next slide. We are a global company, and unlike other companies, the reason Centerline went global is because our customers asked us to go global. So we have affiliated companies in most regions of the world today, and all of those are supporting our global customers. Go to the next slide. Some recent highlights about Centerline. Again, we are recognized as the best managed company with platinum status. Recently won the National Manufacturing Leadership Award, sponsored by the Association of Manufacturers. We've been involved in the Windsor Chamber of Commerce, recognized for business excellence in 2016. And more importantly, we're also involved very much in the community. We're a big sponsor of First Robotics, and we do a lot of community service around Windsor. And we think that helps us with drawing and attracting employees. Currently today, we're involved with helping over 80 apprentices develop their careers across the Windsor campuses. Go to the next slide. A little bit about our products. We talk about ourselves as a tips to turnkey company. So we supply everything from the small weld caps on welding guns right up to fully integrated multi-robot assembly lines that are putting together car parts. If you're driving a car built in North America, there's probably a good chance that there's been some Centerline equipment that's manufactured some of the components of your automobile. Go to the next slide, please. When we talk about investment of technology or in technology, which is really the theme for today, really Centerline invests in three separate elements in our business. We invest in our products. We recently launched a couple of new products this year and are continuing to look at products. Those products are designed to meet the changing needs of the market or solve customer problems. We invest in software. I'll show you a couple slides on where we're using software to help our efficiencies as we run the business. And we're also investing heavily in machinery to produce the products that we provide to our customers. Go to the next slide, please. So with the first area of investment, talking about investing in software, this slide here talks about some of our investments in robot simulation. And this is where we were just recognized for a 2020 Manufacturing Leadership Award. The programming people are typically the last people to touch the equipment before it leaves the building. Typically a lot of pressure on those folks. So what we've done through the use of software is right as the projects are kicked off, we're using simulation software to validate and give feedback to make sure that we can attain the quoted cycle times. Everything fits. We're looking at safety and ergonomics of our cells to make sure that is all qualified up front through simulation. And then lastly, we're actually doing offline programming to make sure that we're not going to have anything like robot interference or cycle time problems. That way, when it is time for the programmer, we've done a lot of upfront work with simulation that makes these projects run a lot smoother. Next slide, please. Another area where we're investing in ourselves is really through our continuous improvement program. When I talk about continuous improvement, and I talk about this when I do orientation with new employees, continuous improvement is really embedded in the DNA of our company and really started with Donald Beneteau and Fred Weigel more than 60 years ago that coined the phrase, make the customer a hero. So, based on the culture that they established for solving problems and making improvements, the continuous improvement program that I talk about today has been made very easy. So how the current program got started was after the financial crisis. Michael Beneteau, our current CEO, really challenged us to focus on continually improve the business and not wait for the next crisis. And lo and behold, we're kind of in the middle of the next crisis right now. But our program consists of four main elements, which I'll touch on a little bit today, and you can see how we're making investments through those programs. So if we go to the next slide. The foundation of our program is really based on 5S methodology. So the top two pictures here are where we started back in 2010. Again, we show this slide to new employees and ask them, where would you rather buy your product from? The picture on the left or the product on the, or the picture on the right? We ask them where you would prefer to work, at the station on the left or the station at the right. So through the investments in 5S, we've been able to define better workflows through our organization, save a lot of money, and really engage our employees in making their work cells functional for themselves and reducing frustrations. So that is the kind of the heart and soul of our continuous improvement program. We can go to the next slide. The next element of our program really got started in late 2013, where we were swamped with a big backlog of work, and our current machining assets were unable to keep up with the demand. So we were outsourcing work all over Windsor into Detroit, and we really lost an ability to focus on our project timelines. We lost control, we lost margin. So we set a focus to, in 2014, to really focus on machine efficiency. We started with setup reduction, and over the first 18-month period through that program, we achieved a 29% improvement in our machining efficiency and productivity. You know, we first focused on setup, but then we moved to part holding and fixturing, then to cutting tool technology. And you can see a graph here at the bottom of one of the machines we started with. We started with 2 or 3 machines, and we were able to raise our overall efficiencies significantly over that time period. We go to the next slide, please. Since 2014, we've continued each and every year really to look at making investments in machinery and cutting technology. Today, we monitor over 40 CNC machines that are making components that go into the machines and the products that we sell to our customers. And each and every month, we're continually looking for actions to improve the productivity and efficiency and quality, all focused on customer value. The picture on the right is one of our recent assets that we acquired and installed last year. And even with some of the knowledge that we had gained from 2014 through the current time, we ran another focused program, and you can see the little graph there. Originally, we had targeted to get close to 50 parts per shift, and through these continuous improvement activities, you can see the results that we've actually achieved. Close to a 96% productivity improvement versus our goal. So again, big investment in machinery and equipment. Next slide, please. Well, today we're talking a lot about physical investments of assets and technology. I put this slide up only as it speaks to really the success of our program, and our productivity improvements has really been all focused around our employees, our 800 employees working at all facets of the organization. In 2014, we implemented a continuous improvement suggestion program. And we started off by saying, gee, we'd just like to have everyone come up with one idea. After the first year of that program, we implemented about 250 ideas. We kind of made some changes to the program, and since then, this program has been really, for me, the most exciting element of our continuous improvement program. We just completed our fiscal year 2020, and we implemented more than 2,500 employee suggestions. Some of these suggestions are small things. Some of them have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I think it really builds the culture to work on continuously improving the business. So we can go to the next slide, please. The last area of our continuous improvement program we started in 2014 was with respect to value stream mapping. And this is really a process that looks at your flow, your business flow, could be a product flow. But the goal here is to really eliminate waste and improve customer value. So this is an example of a project we did last year with our materials management group at our machinery division. In a typical assembly cell, there could be upwards of 20,000 components manufactured, purchased, fabricated, and we had a lot of trouble with getting those materials when we needed them, how we needed them, and where we needed them. So we started a value stream mapping project with a cross-functional team. Over the period of about 27 weeks, they developed 90 opportunities. And if we go to the next slide, I want to talk about the results of this. There was a lot of doubt. We made a big investment in the material upfront, handling, storage. We implemented a bin management system, and there was a lot of doubt whether this investment would really pay off for us. The videos that I'm going to show in a minute, the one on the left was a time-lapse video taken from 2013. The one on the right is going to be the results of this material management value stream. And I think if you pay attention to the number of moves and how the lines are going together, you'll see the results. And for me, this was evident that all of these upfront investments in properly kitting and preparing the parts has made our value-added people, the people that build the machines, very successful. So if we hit to the next slide, the video should not on that, to just come off of that and just hit return, and then these videos should play. Thanks. So again, what you're seeing on the left is a methodology where we just built the line as we got it. The line on the right going together is one after the value stream mapping project, where we actually strategically mapped out how we wanted to put the line together. Again, you're trying to coordinate multifunctional resources, and if everything's not ready for them, they can come in. For example, you might have the robot programmer come in ready to go. The robot's not lagged, or the fixture's not CMM properly. So with the system on the right, we found that everything moved faster, smoother, and was more efficient. Even some of our customers noticed how much more organized we seemed to be after the methodology was built on the right. Our machine builders are happy with it. Our materials handling people are happy with it. And for the people that had to sort around to look for stuff, or think about putting a robot in location and find out it's the wrong robot. So through this materials management value stream mapping project, we've been really successful at making these lines go together very, very smoothly. And for those of you who've been involved in the automotive business for a while, you know that timelines are only getting shorter and faster, and customer expectations are more significant. So we go to the next slide. So it looks like the video might be buffering here. So I see we've lost our video. I guess, that was really kind of the concluding slide in this presentation. Overall, we've been able to make investments that have improved our productivity, saved millions of dollars, made our customer product better. So with that, if there's any questions before I turn it back to David Litton, I'm welcome to take some questions.
Thanks, Doug. And I'd just say, and maybe I should have said off the beginning, it's Matthew here for those of you who can't see. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat box. We will get to them as we go along, or we can come back to them at the end. There's no time limit specific, as long as within the time. And even if we don't get to it during the session, we can certainly answer them afterwards. And Doug, that's a great example of how companies can use technology to their advantage to be competitive globally, like we were talking about in the introductory comments. So David, over to you from BDO. Thank you again for joining us. And as always, BDO is such a great partner of ours and a big contributor to ours in all things we do on technology and supporting investment in it in Canadian manufacturing. So David, look forward to hear what you have to say.
Okay, thanks, Matthew, and many thanks, Doug. That was a fascinating insight into your continuous improvement initiatives. I don't think we have the slides being shown right now, but I'm happy to keep going without the slides. Let me just pull them up on my screen here.
This is where I have to interrupt and say we all talk about technology now. Wonderful it is, and technology is actually giving us the problems right now. So we will have them back up momentarily. Sorry for that, but it is coming back up. Thanks.
No
David.
worries. No, I'll get into this, and hopefully the slides will catch up. So what I'd like to, my name is David Linton. I'm a partner at BDO Canada in our consulting group. My background is technology. BDO is a qualified service provider for the CME TAP program. So we have already completed a number of CME TAP engagements, and we're continuing to work with manufacturers in Ontario as they work with us to get these assessments completed. So I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about the importance of technology assessments. And okay, we have slides back. So Shadal, if you can perhaps go to the economic outlook slide. We've always said that technology assessments and roadmaps are important when you consider at any time an organization really should have a business plan, which then segues into a technology plan, and then a funding plan related to the business and technology initiatives. We have to say that that COVID has certainly caused some changes. Just looking at the economic impact, the graph on the left shows statistics, Stats Canada data that the CME interpreted a couple of months ago. The first thing to say is not every business has been impacted the same in the current climate. At the good end, as it were, the food industry has been impacted less, but at the other end, motor vehicles and parts have been heavily impacted by the current pandemic. Even within that, there are differences. So one food processor is not going to be impacted the same as another, depending on where they get their ingredients from, depending on where their workforce comes from, depending on where their sales channels and their go-to-market strategy is. So we've recognized that that's a big difference between now and normal times. The second, of course, is this, we're not out of the woods yet. We're now officially in a recession. And until we get out of this recession and a vaccine is widely available, then we need to be planning for continued disruptions and needing to pivot. And technology is going to be an important part of that. The third is it's in the early weeks, couple of months of the pandemic, most manufacturers were very busy keeping their operations going, applying for government grants, getting the physical distancing in place and so on. So really that was the response mode. But now we are very much into the recovery and growth mode. And the time will tell who are going to be the winners and who will be the losers on the back end of the current recession and pandemic, based on how well businesses are able to pivot both in general business terms, but also how they can take advantage of technology to help them overcome the current challenges and the challenges that manufacturers have always faced. So I would ask Chital to move on to the next slide. I think we may have lost them again. The second, BDO took the CME and Stats Canada information and projected the impact by segment, by manufacturing segment. We can always come back to that, or we can publish these slides afterwards and people can have a look at that. So if we're to summarize the challenges over the next 2 to 3 years, depending on which industry segment each manufacturer is in, BDO has really distilled it down to 5 main areas. The first is continued supply chain disruptions, and that's both on the supply side, but also on the sales side. So the supply side, we need to, as businesses, get some more resilience into our supply chain, so that if we are sole sourced from geographic regions where the supply chain is disrupted, we can continue our business. At the same time, there have been some costs creeping in on the supply side for direct materials, and so businesses need to determine how to get those costs back down again as much as possible. And then on the sales side, if you're a manufacturing organization and your current or your pre-pandemic supply chain go-to-market sales channel was hospitality or bricks and mortar retail, then you've been heavily impacted. A lot of businesses have had to pivot to open up new sales channels. So that could be e-commerce, it could be new territories, it could be new or different products as a result of the current changes going on. And we'll just talk a little bit about what technologies potentially can help there. The second, margin erosion. We have seen direct material cost increases. We've seen other increases related to manufacturing. In addition to that, many businesses have had revenue reductions, and the result is that margin erosion has definitely been a factor for many or most of our manufacturing clients over the last few months. And we need to put strategies in place, both from a business planning and technology planning, to help improve margins and overcome that challenge. The third main challenges that we see manufacturers that are going to continue to face over the next 2 to 3 years is related to workforce management. These are uncertain times for employees. We need effective communication strategies so that our staff feel connected, they feel safe, and they just understand what the business is doing to pivot in the current situation. And allied to that is there's potentially, we've got a second wave coming in Ontario. We need to make sure that we have contingency plans in place if we have workforce shortages, or there's a localized outbreak, or even a case within our own four walls. The fourth area that I'm sure that most manufacturers have been paying a lot more attention to over the last few months and more regularly is cash flow and working capital management. We need more than ever to be able to reforecast our cash flow and what our working capital looks like on a weekly or even daily basis. And this is perhaps exposing that we don't necessarily have the tools in place. And as a result, if we cannot do this on a timely basis, it means we don't have the information we need as changes occur, both within our businesses and also the environment around our businesses. And the final is we are seeing, and we predict we'll be seeing more and more solvency issues within our manufacturing clients over the next months and a couple of years. So that's the challenges. I would say none of these challenges are new. It's just that the challenges have been accelerated and perhaps are a little different in the current situation. But going back to what Matthew was saying a little earlier, we have recognized that Canadian manufacturers need to look at technology investments to help improve their business and allow the manufacturing sector to grow over the next few years. So let's talk about what a technology assessment is and why it's so important. If we can move, do we have the slides up? We do have them. So why is a technology assessment important? I put a paraphrase quote up there that comes from Alice in Wonderland, which really says, if you don't know the direction you're going in terms of business or technology, then it doesn't matter which path you take. The risk is you're not going to get where you hope to go if you don't set out a plan for both the business and the technology related to support that business plan. So a technology assessment, it's an opportunity for a business to step back, look at the current business plan, the current systems and processes, the challenges that they that the current systems and processes are putting in the way that are preventing the business plan to be executed, and then based on that, build a desired to be state of where the business needs to be in terms of technology in 2 years or 3 years, and then a roadmap of how to get from where you are now to where you need to be in 2 to 3 years in terms of technology to support the business plan. So that's it, what a technology assessment is in a nutshell. If we look at the next slide, just looking at some of the details of the areas that a technology assessment dives into. There's the traditional back office systems, the accounting system, the ERP or MRP systems, NAHR systems. Those are typically reviewed as part of a technology assessment, but then there are many other areas as well. So a full assessment, technology assessment, will also look at what's happening on the shop floor, what data is being collected, what information can be gleaned from the machinery and equipment, how we are managing our manufacturing execution. It looks at the use of technology in the warehouse, the reorganization of the warehouse, the automation of processes, and the mobilization in the warehouse. CAD systems, the use of CAD systems themselves, plus the potential integration with other systems such as ERP. Usually we look at the sales and marketing related systems, typically the CRM systems, to make sure that the go-to-market strategy is supported by those sales and marketing systems. We look at reporting and analytics of financial data, production data, sales data, and all information which currently may or may not be analyzed to the fullest extent to allow you to make business decisions. We look at the use of predictive analytics, and in manufacturing that could be predictive maintenance for the shop floor, it could be demand planning. There are a number of use cases for predictive analytics, and there are relatively few organizations, particularly small, medium-sized manufacturers, which are taking advantage of the solutions which are now available. We look at robotics, and that's both the physical robotics for use in production, but also software robotics, often known as robotic process automation, or RPA systems, to see how and whether they could be used to streamline, simplify processes. We often look at emerging technologies such as augmented and virtual reality, 3D printing, the use of blockchain in certain industry segments. Very important one right now is the collaboration, with the need for physical distancing, a semi-remote workforce, the need to work with partners, vendors and customers without necessarily being face-to-face, the need to potentially pivot to new sales channels such as the use of e-commerce and EDI tools. We're spending quite a bit of time of that on that part of technology assessments. And then we look at the current IT infrastructure, the potential and current use of cloud computing, whether outsourcing is an option to improve efficiencies. And then something which has, again, been definitely increasing in the last few months is look at the current cybersecurity plans in light of the increased cyber attacks that we are seeing, even amongst our mid-sized manufacturing clients. The end objective of this, as I say, is to build a technology roadmap which fits with the business plan, and gives an organization that roadmap to work towards over the next 2 to 3 years, with the idea that the technology supports the business to improve productivity by lowering costs, by increasing product quality, increasing innovation capacity, increasing revenue, increasing customer satisfaction. So with that, I will pass it back to Shadal, and happy to answer questions when we get to that section.
Thank you, David. And I'll just remind people there was one question already asked. If you do have a question, please just type it in. We will, after Sheetal's done, we will do a Q&A and answer any questions you have. And of course, if you have any other questions, we'll give you in the comment box, we'll provide Sheetal's email address as well, and she can answer any questions directly. So over to you, Sheetal.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, David. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, so you can use that to ask any questions. So just, I will just quickly go over the Technology Assessment Program overview. I am the program manager managing this program. And here. So as you know, the program outlines, it is for small to medium sized enterprises in Southern Ontario, and they will receive funds in up to $25,000 to conduct an assessments. And for this program, we are to conduct 175 technology assessments. And there are some eligibility criteria, and as you see on the screen, they have to be a manufacturer based in Southern Ontario, must be incorporated for at least 2 years continuously. They must show financial stability. Companies must have greater than 15 and fewer than 500 full-time employees. And they must not receive any government funding for the assessment project. We understand that they would be receiving funding, companies would be receiving funding for other projects, but not for this particular project. And so we've divided the whole program into 4 phases. Phase 1 is the eligibility form, which you can find on our program website. And if you email me, I can send that to you too. It is basically to check your initial eligibility. Once that is approved, then you work with your QSP, a qualified service provider, to submit a proposal and a proposed budget. That is phase 2. In phase 3, once your proposal is reviewed, you move on to conducting the assessments. And phase 4 is, the companies submit final report along with all the invoices, and the claims report, and we reimburse the funds. The program, it will go on until March 2022, or earlier if we finish 175 technology assessments. And again, and the website is up on your screen. All the information is also on the website, but please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. So, at this time, we can do Q&A.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Sheetal. So again, technology, we see at CME technology being absolutely critical to the competitiveness of Canadian industry. Canadian industry is a long ways behind. A company like Doug shows how technology can fundamentally transform and make companies much more competitive. And obviously, the expertise of a group like BDO, and BDO isn't the only people working with, but certainly David and the team at BDO are one of our core experts in terms of helping us deliver this technology assessment program in the different areas of operations. And then we have obviously the program itself, which you can apply to support your own assessment to get someone to look at your operations to see how you can improve it. And of course, that's being done with support of FedDev. So again, thank you to all the presenters. We've got a few questions here. I'm just going to go in order. I think we have till the top of the hour, so we've probably got about 10 minutes or so of Q&A. If there's other questions, please don't hesitate to ask. But the first one is from Susan, who says, Doug, so I'll aim it the best I can, but Doug, what assistance did you tap into to decide what technologies to put in place to help improve each of the 4 foundational elements you talked about? So Doug,
that's
over
a
to you.
good question. So soon after we started the continuous improvement program, we joined a consortium group. So we still participate with that group today. It's several companies, all going along the lean journey. And what we do as a group is we set out kind of objectives on an annual basis of how we want to improve. So we've been able to leverage learning from that group. The other thing with respect to machinery investment, again, every year we go see what's new and what's upcoming in the world of CNC machinery. So we've had a kind of a core team that looks at machining technologies. From a product development perspective, we actually have a whole research and development group that's looking at what's coming down in terms of new technologies and what are the customers going to be looking for in terms of new products. And we kind of put those two things together to develop our new product strategies, if that answers your question.
Thank you, Doug. And certainly, if people are looking for lean training expertise, we can provide some of that as well. CME does a lot of that, and we have other partners we work with as well. Second question, I'll just answer it quickly, and then which was, is BDO providing all the services internally for the complete technology assessment, or do you work with partners and expertise? So let's say in general, and I think Sheetal would answer this in here, that we have many approved QSPs, and we actually have a listing of those on our website. And we also have them by specific areas of expertise that they do have, both functionally in terms of the technology as well as sectorally. But I'll let David talk a little bit about BDO's specific expertise as well, if that's okay, David, for a couple minutes.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, as you say, there are multiple QSPs. BDO is one of those QSPs. If an organization chooses BDO to perform the technology assessment, then they are the staff working on that are all BDO employees. It's not subcontractors. So that's answering specific question. More generally, in terms of our expertise, I don't have the stats. I'm not sure whether Matthew would be prepared to share those, but we've done a lot of these assessments, both in the current under the current TAP program, but also when we had previous initiatives that the CME has looked after in previous years. We do have a manufacturing and distribution industry group that focuses solely on manufacturing. 100% of my time is working with manufacturers, for example, and so we have across the country just over 3,000 manufacturers that we work with on a regular basis as active clients.
Great. Thanks, David. So Zach has 3 questions in a row here, and I'll open it up. I'm not sure who the best person is, but I'll open up both to Doug and David and Sheetal if any of you has answers. So first one is Windsor-Essex region's second largest greenhouse farming. I assume that's in the province or maybe even the country. What technologies are available specifically to food waste recycling solutions is the first question. Second one is a scope of technology assessment. What assessments are in place to monitor the AQI, which will be, I guess, for Sheetal. And then finally, about around circular economy recycling, MSW, I don't even know what these acronyms mean. My apologies. MSW and MSHW waste system. What assistance provided by Windsor-Essex region? And maybe Rakesh, you would know a little bit more specifically about the Windsor-Essex region. So maybe if I could open it up to any of the 4 panelists or 4 other speakers to answer those questions.
Well, other than having worked in the Leamington area for 10 years, I really don't have experience to speak about what's going on in the greenhouse industry, so I'll defer.
Okay, Rakesh, you're the lead from Windsor-Essex. Do you want to jump in on what's happening specifically on circular economy and greenhouse farming?
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Matthew. And just for your information and the others, the greenhouse sector is the second largest in the world when it comes to greenhouse vegetables. So, and Zach and what he's doing here is a great addition to that sector. I don't have very specific information for him, except that there are agencies like Ontario Greenhouse Growers, Vegetable Growers Association that we can put him in touch with. That'll have a little bit more information on particularly the circular economy. And also, we have ERCA, which is the Essex Region Conservation Authority, which would be another great organization for him to connect with. So, Zach, what I suggest is, maybe offline, you can get in touch with me and I'll be happy to connect you with both of these organizations.
Thanks, Rakesh. David, did you have anything you wanted to add in from your perspective and expertise?
Just looking at the first question there from Zach, what technologies are available for food waste recycling solution? And trying to tying it into the CME TAP program. This is something maybe Chidal can advise on eligibility, but there is a potential if the food waste recycling solution is going to improve efficiency, reduce cost, or meet the criteria for the TAP program, then a QSP could look at the current and future state for food waste recycling as part of a TAP assessment.
Great, thank you. There's a couple of questions, and I'll maybe just pick up from there, David, on that point in terms of eligibility on these assessments and what is qualified. There was a question here: is funding available for manufacturing industries, or can other service industries apply too? This is specific to the manufacturing sector. The qualification criteria are set out by FedDev themselves, and we follow their guidelines. Again, more specific information is available on the screen here, but also on CME's website, and we will circulate this information directly to participants following this call as well. Are there any other questions? I think we got all of the specific questions. There's a couple of comments in here. So if there's no other questions, I will turn it over. Doug, David, any last, or Sheetal, any last comments from you before we turn it to Rakesh for closing comments?
No, I guess the last thing to say is thank you everybody for taking the time to join this webinar today. BDO is always on standby to assist in both conducting the assessments and also assisting clients to apply for the assessment funding. I couldn't leave without a plug. My apologies.
You have to do it. Doug, how about for yourself?
Yeah, and I would say with respect to continuous improvement, if anybody's interested in some of the continuous improvement elements that we are using, or please feel free to reach out. We are actually giving a virtual tour of Centerline at the Association of Manufacturing Excellence Conference that's being held on October 29th. Basically, that's a conference that looks at lean leadership around the world. So we were asked to actually give a virtual tour of Centerline, where we're actually doing a little bit more in depth of some of the elements that I talked about today. But please feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to share some of the things we're doing.
Fantastic. Sheetal? You're good. So on behalf of CME, before I turn to Rakesh, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks again, Doug, David, the team at BDO, great partners of ours, and of course, to our colleagues at FedDev who support this program. Technology is critical to the growth of manufacturing, not only in the past, but even more so now as we try to exit out of COVID. And hopefully today gave you a little bit of insight into how technology can help your company, but also some of the tools that are available to you through CME, through FedDev, and through our partners at Windsor Essex Chamber of Commerce. So Rakesh, thanks again for joining us today and helping us with this this program. Turn it to you to make the final closing remarks. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. And it's been a pleasure working with you and your team. Sheetal does a fantastic job, and your entire team at CME is great to work with. So very pleased to partner with you on this program. I want to thank Doug. Doug, great operation here. We're very proud to have Centerline here as part of the community. You've been very generous with your time as well when it comes to site tours, or whether it is, providing or opening up your facility for manufacturing day tours and so on. So we really appreciate everything that you do in the community. And David, thanks for the presentation. Very fascinating. Shared some really good information. And I think this is very timely. This program is very timely. David, in your presentation, you talked about the various sectors and how they've been affected. And, clearly in our region, there are many sectors that can benefit from it because we are just not auto manufacturing. We've taken our auto manufacturing powers, our skills, our capabilities, our expertise, and we have leveraged that in other sectors such as food processing, medical devices, transportation, logistics, and there are other sectors as well. So many of these sectors can benefit from technology improvement, from productivity enhancements. And I think this is also very timely because COVID has put some extra pressure on every industry. There is a need for us to do more with less, and that's where technology assessments, leveraging technology, increasing productivity will come and help us, get better and help us with our bottom line. And it is very much required because Canada has a growing deficit when it comes to productivity gap as compared to US. Currently, the Canadian large companies are only 73% as efficient as the American companies. And when it comes to small businesses, they're only 47% as productive as the American small businesses. So you can see that there is a huge gap. And unfortunately, this gap has been increasing since the 1980s. So programs like this will help us in reversing that. And also, if you see USMCA, it's great news. I think it gives us more opportunity to do more business within North America. But what it also means is that North American companies have more opportunity to do business. You can now have up to 75% of components that can go into a completely built vehicle in North America, which means we'll be competing more with the Mexicans and the Americans. So unless we really work on reducing the productivity gap, we'll be very challenged. So a very timely event. So I want to thank CME for offering this in partnership with FedDev. And the Chamber of Commerce here is there to support our community and the businesses here. We have a lot of room for other companies to come in and take advantage of that. So if you've not yet put in your application, I urge you to do that at the earliest. You can get in touch with the Chamber of Commerce. My colleagues are here. You can send us an email and then we'll connect back with you. So with that, I want to thank everyone. I just have one friendly reminder for those that are from Windsor, Essex. We have on November 3rd, the Warden's Luncheon coming up. So if you have not registered for that, please do. And it'll be a great event. So with that, thanks once again. Thank you to all the panelists, Sheetal, and to your team, Matthew, to your team. It's been fantastic partnership. Over to you, Sheetal.
Thank you very much, everyone. Hope you have a great day. Sheetal's information is on the screen now if you have any questions whatsoever. We will send this presentation around to all participants. So thank you again, Doug, David, Rakesh, Sheetal, and everyone for joining us today. Hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye now.